Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Path to Purchase. It is Tom Breeze here with my good buddy,
Ollie Bilson. Hello, Tom.
Hello, Ollie. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. It's been a long time.
It has been a little time, hasn't it? I think our listeners will probably be very upset with our attitude to getting these out. But we are here constantly trying to make really good content. We're just so busy sometimes running different agencies and things are just kind of getting very, very busy for both of us. But that's always a good thing. But obviously we want to make sure.
We could have just swept it under the carpet a little. I mean, we could have just basically said, like, in our last episode, you heard about X, Y, and Z. And just kind of said, you must have been a technical problem or something.
Oh, have you not been receiving our episodes?
Have you not been getting our episodes? What's been going on? But you're right, we have been away. I mean, I've probably been to America 52 times in the past 3 weeks.
3 days.
Yeah, exactly.
But I like to keep it real with the listeners, let them know what actually happens when
well, there was a moment there when I thought that you might actually just try and ghost that one, to be honest with you. But obviously I know you better. You're a very honest individual. So
of course I am, yeah. All right. So today we're going to be speaking about different sources of bringing in new customers, really. And I was going to say bringing in new traffic and leads and all that sort of stuff, but we're going to actually take this a little bit offline because, well, Ollie, first of all, you wanted to talk about the most important or the most dangerous number, right?
Yeah, sure. So I think pretty much this is something that I talk about in virtually every conversation around marketing, lead generation especially, is the most dangerous number is one in business, relying upon one channel to generate leads from, one traffic source. It could even be one staff member. It can be not just about marketing, but it could be to do with your team as well, of course. We've seen, for those of you who had been advertising on certainly Google AdWords in the early days. I was an early adopter, 2003, I think I was.
I was there too, yeah.
A long time ago now. And everybody kind of began to see the rise in the cost of obviously AdWords over a period of time. And then there's new platforms that came out like Facebook, and some people jumped between platforms and literally just like left what they were doing, over here.
Yeah.
And they went and got attracted to the bright, shiny, cheap traffic sources as they were when they first came out. And there is a big danger in doing that, having such a reliance on that one channel that you have to bring people in. And it's not just traffic; it's platform is one thing, but then also sometimes funnel can be another. There's the conversation goes a little deeper than what it might look like on the surface.
This is really interesting, actually, because I think that when it comes to one, there's also a power in one as well. So, like, to take the flip and play devil's advocate just for a second, it's almost like whenever I do like a survey out, and this goes out not necessarily so, but more of a questionnaire, I suppose, to new prospects that are coming on board in the agency, I always say to them, how's your funnel performing? How well are you how well is your conversion performing in your funnels and things? And when a client says 9 or 10 out of 10, or whatever number they say, we have a follow-up question saying, great, well, why does it perform quite so well? What would you put that down to? And a number of people that say to me, just focusing on one funnel and optimizing it and getting it right and making it work brilliantly and testing and making tweaks and changes. And that sole focus on one thing for the time being is like kind of like really getting those results. But I suppose you're saying do that process and also have other kind of ways of doing the same thing, right? Is that what you're aiming towards?
I think that you're right to sort of dig into it a little bit, because we see a lot of people with a lot of half-built bridges. They learn about something, they listen to a podcast, they read a book, they buy an info product, maybe they attend an event, and they decide that they're going to try, some kind of paid advertising, or maybe it's some kind of new funnel, but they haven't really focused and nailed one thing that's working. So what we're trying to say is that you really need to get very clear on what you want to have happen, and build something that is working and getting results before moving to something else. So you want to make sure something's working before you go and explore other traffic options, different platforms that you've got available, or building other funnels based on the temperature of the traffic and the audience coming towards you. That's a very sensible thing to do. Somebody that's looking, for example, on, say, Google AdWords, has a certain level of intent behind that search. They're actually looking for what you have to offer. Maybe it's an exact, or more, very, very specific to what you've got to offer. So in one of our businesses, we sell training courses, and if you look at the keyword research, people are looking for training courses in this particular niche. But of course, the type of funnel that you would use for that is very different to what you would perhaps use on Facebook, where you're interrupting people, you're trying to capture their attention, and based on their demographic, psychographic interest profiles, you are putting a message out in front of them. It's very different, but you've got to start somewhere, of course. The key is to diversify these things, not even just online, also diversify things offline as well, because I know we spoke about it in past episodes, but for years now, one of our most expensive sources of leads is offline to online lead generation, but it is the cheapest customers for us. So just because it is the most expensive lead doesn't necessarily mean it's the most expensive customer. We get a very good quality of customer from that form of lead generation. And of course, it diversifies things. We don't just put all our chips over in offline to online because of that. Of course, we do as much of it as we can to scale it, but we want to diversify it, because if suddenly the cost of postage goes up dramatically, or they stop allowing us to send what we are sending in the post to get people's attention, which you can do, there's things out of your control. Everybody's heard of the Google slap. You might get the postage slap, who knows, the mailing slap, who knows. So
a mail slap, that sounds like a different thing altogether, but yeah, go for it.
you would know more than me, Tom, about that.
Well, yeah, I probably would,
yeah. So yeah, diversifying what you're doing is a big thing. There's one thing to build something and focus on getting it right, and getting it right for a particular platform, traffic platform. And that's where I would start, really. If you were listening to this, you're like, well, where do I start with all this? If I'm starting completely fresh, or reinventing something, or starting a new service, I'll be like, pick a platform, focus on that platform, and get an offer that converts. Create a funnel that works with that platform, with that temperature of traffic, that audience of traffic coming towards it, and get that nailed. Once you've got that nailed, you can then begin to, really lay the foundations for a much more of a diversified strategy.
It's so funny. It's like it's squeezing more and more juice out of the same lemon, right? So it's like, that's all I always look at from YouTube and AdWords, is like there's phases of which kind of like we look at when we're kind of advertising, in terms of like, there's a starting point where we think, well, we don't know how well this is going to perform. We've got to take it to the marketplace and test out a load of things, like, is the video ad good enough? Is the targeting good enough? Et cetera, et cetera. And is the offer good? And then once we've kind of started that first wave of activity, we start to see like, okay, the targeting was a little bit off, but we can tweak that. The video ad probably needs to be changed because it's not converting as well as it could have done. And the offer is still okay. We'll kind of carry on with that for the time being. And then we're going to go into phase 2 and go a little bit deeper into the different types of campaigns we can build out. And we normally get into like the 6th, 7th phase before we really feel like, okay, there's not much more we can do here. We've got to the point of like, if we change anything now, it's going to make such a small difference that it's not really worth going to all that effort any longer. We're better off bringing a new product with the same client into the marketplace, or something along those lines, or going for a slightly different angle, or whatever it might be. But yeah, I'm very, very kind of keen on going deeper and deeper to the point at which it doesn't make sense to go any deeper any longer. Get that kind of like, get the funnel honed in, get the advertising campaigns honed in, so they're absolutely working brilliantly well, and then be like, cool, we've nailed that. Now let's move on to the next thing. But that next thing is really important, of course, because you don't want to be relying on one thing. Because, as you say, if the prices increase or if something changes that's outside of your control, then of course you're back into that situation. You've got nothing at that point. So yeah,
it's the difference, I guess. Probably this isn't the first time I've said this, but it's the difference between being like a sniper rifle and a shotgun. You know, it's like spray and pray, or be extremely laser targeted and focused in doing, you know, adopting that kind of approach. And it definitely pays to do that for sure. But I know one thing that we were talking about actually just before we got onto this episode was like, we were looking at, obviously both of us over in the United States quite a lot, talking at different conferences. And you know, sometimes when you're speaking, it makes sense to exhibit. It makes sense for you to put yourself out there, get a stand, get a booth, and use that, because you've already got a presence, obviously, from stage. It actually gives you kind of a bit of a double, more than a double benefit, maybe a triple threat then, because of course you can lead generate from the stage. You know, I do that quite a lot with text messages. Often it's to deliver a copy of the slides, or whether it's to offer a particular bonus that they may be interested in, or worksheet, workbook, or free tool, or something like that from stage. Works really well to lead generate. So with that in itself is a medium. So let's talk about that. You know, whatever we're doing with Facebook, whatever we're doing with Google, whatever we're doing anywhere else, you know, we're also talking here about using speaking as a way to lead generate. That's part of my diversification strategy. So speaking, and then we got the booth that, you know, is in itself a different kind of media. It's offline, where you're capturing people's information, no different to online, where you're providing some form of value and they're giving you their information. Exactly the same as from stage, right? And so you could give something away to them at the booth in exchange for their contact information. And all of the thing is like all of the metrics still ring true. Like, it doesn't matter if you're doing offline, online. What you're really looking at is, it cost me $20,000 to exhibit at this event. And from the booth, I got, say, I don't know, 500 or 1,000 leads, people that gave you their information. And you may, if you're lucky, depending upon what your strategy is, have some people that actually bought from you. Maybe you sold a product there. And so you can kind of go through the same process. What was the cost per lead? You can look at what the return on investment is, just in the same way as you would look at anything else. Also, the lead to buyer time. You know, these leads can be extremely good quality sometimes, and surprisingly, because they've had some face time with you, can really reduce that lead to buyer time down, that they had a conversation with you on the booth, they're very well qualified, you've had a meaningful conversation, and they're ready to proceed with something with you quite quickly. Now, there might not be many of those people, but the ROI for the whole thing may work extremely well for you.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? So, like, for listeners who are listening in, I love when I say that, because I feel like there's no need to say who are listening in, because if they got to this part, they're already listening. Yeah, exactly.
Slightly retarded, just slightly. Yeah.
Yes, very true. Yeah. So for those people that are listening and continue to listen to this podcast right now, listening to this podcast, just so give people a bit of context, like, so we're going to both be at an event in February in San Diego, and I'm umming and ahhing right now about whether I should go for a booth or not, and I haven't got all the details just yet. It's probably I'm going to be going for it, but I have literally no knowledge of how to run a booth in the most effective way. I know what booths are. I've seen them run very well in the past, and in fact, the reason why we were talking about it before this episode is because I went to an event in San Antonio with you earlier this year, right? And when I got there, I just noticed, like, everyone had lots of booths around, which is great, but like Ollie's just shone out. It was like this amazing booth, and it just looks incredible, and it had like loads of stuff there that just, if you walk past the booth, you always want to grab stuff and just leave your details just because it looks so beautiful. But everything else there is awesome as well. So as the go-to conversation, I was like, well, I'll talk to Oli because he obviously knows how to do this stuff. Plus, you're a Brit in and doing a booth in the US. So there's that sort of thing, like how do we ship it all out there and how all the logistics of that. And I've had lots of chats with people like James Schramko about it. I've had chats with Russ from Digital Marketer as well, like what tends to work best. And so I got some really good pointers from them as well. James Schramko in particular was really interesting because he was like, make sure you have like a script that you'll use when you're at the booth itself. Like, make sure you don't ask the thing of like, are you being helped, for example, whether people can say, yeah, no, I'm just looking, or just kind of like, it doesn't give them that option. So you're kind of like asking better questions to make them engage. Like, are you running YouTube ads right now? Because either way, if they say yes or no, and it's an easy one for them to say, yeah, exactly. You can continue that conversation without having to feel like someone just said to you, no, so I'm just looking, which is difficult then to recover that conversation. So I thought all that sort of stuff it's for me, it's like there's 101 different things to remember or to think about when running a booth, but little things like that is just like great little reminders that, oh my God, yeah, of course, I probably wouldn't have remembered to do that. So that's great that like make sure everyone who's working on that booth knows the script and has a script to run by. And so they just like, everyone goes through a similar thing. But in terms of some of the stuff we were talking about as well, I think we're in a fortunate position because we'll both be speaking at the event. From my side, I'll be speaking and then I'll have the booth as well. So I can call people to action almost to come and speak to me on the booth. And from Russ's perspective, when I spoke to him, Russ Hannaby, he was very much like, when it comes to booths, a lot of people spend a lot of time speaking to one person and there's like a queue of 20 people and then you'll lose the last 10 people that were queuing up to speak to you because you're taking so long. So he's like, make it quick, just continue that conversation offline or online or whatever it might be from there. But I mean, what have you seen work? And I'm putting you on the spot here, but what have you seen? Like, is there 3 top tips that you might have, or 3 things that you say definitely do this or that to make sure that if you're going to do a booth, you get the very best result out of it?
Yeah, so I think there's probably a few different types of people that you will see, and they will vary in different interest levels as well. You'll have like the lurkers; those are the people that will walk past, the stand. They'll look from afar. They'll be looking at you. They'll be looking at the backdrop of your stand, and they're a bit tentative if they should engage in a conversation or come towards you. And that's just how some people are. That's cool.
That's how I am. That's how I am at the conference.
Because some people.
I want to see it, but I don't want to start a conversation, please.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, keep people. So
yes. I know what'll happen if I start talking to them. I end up buying it. So that's the problem.
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to bear that in mind, to be honest with you.
You should. Yeah,
that's fine.
I'm very poor.
So I think you've got the people that like are on the periphery. They're not yet engaged in what you've got to offer yet. They're just kind of on the outside. And really with those guys, the thing that they probably want to see, the thing that's actually going to draw them in, is some kind of offer, something that's going to get them and entice them to start a conversation. Have a chat, find out,
hook them in.
Hook them in. Yeah. So that can be varying different things. So it could be a lead magnet. So one of the things that we give away is a free guide, like a checklist, a 61-point checklist, marketing checklist. We also just recently have started doing QR competition stuff. Now I'll come QR codes. Now I'll come back to that because that's more like the second profile of person. So the third is like somebody that's like lurking around. They are looking at you and think, yeah, you know what, actually I'm going to go and claim that because that's pretty cool. Now what you don't want like loads of swag and stuff like that they can easily just come and take and run away with, because you might think to yourself, well, that's good, guess what happened today? We had 100 t-shirts and now we don't have any. Yeah, but you also have nobody's names. Now,
yeah,
as hard-nosed as I am, I don't really like the idea of giving stuff to people, which is some form of value, when I don't have anything back from them. Okay, I don't know about
Yep.
them. I don't have their details. I just think that's a really big mistake. I think otherwise it's a branding exercise, and we live in a direct response world. So you won't see me giving away free pens. You know,
Oh,
I'm. Don't be
damn it.
disappointed. Don't be disappointed. Our
I can
pens
just,
for our
I'll just scratch Ollie Wilson into one of my pens. That'll have to be ready.
well, our high quality pens are also for high quality potential customers. So
I won't be getting one of those then.
no, exactly. Well, if I continue talking to you, you never know, you might buy something. So
I might just bypass the pen and just go straight to the high ticket item.
well, that'd be a lot better for me as well.
Okay, cool.
So
Sale done.
yeah, so I think that those type. The second is somebody that's like, you know, they want to like they do want to engage with you, and it really comes down to how you handle that. Now, that type of person is somebody that probably is you know, they want to find out more information, and you need to kind of discern those people from the last type of person I'm going to talk about in the moment. So that's really about data capture, and that's going to be really about the free guide giveaway. Get their information, an easy way to get their information that they can either key in themselves, or you can have somebody take down their information, and we're using QR codes. So on banners, we've got these QR codes where somebody could come up and scan it and then enter a competition. So they actually scan it, and it takes them to a landing page to enter in their information for a competition.
So with a QR code, do you not have to have a QR
Scanner.
app on your phone?
Yes.
Do you have to download the app first?
We actually give them both like options. So just like anything, any form of marketing, you should give them multiple ways to respond. So
Yep.
In our banner, we say, here's the QR code, scan it in. Now, some people do have their barcode scanner, so that's cool. Some people will just want to type it in, like an easy to like go to URL to type it in to enter the competition, or they just want to give you their business card and put it in the bowl. You know, so
Cool. Okay.
so you've got to be able to give them a couple of different options to do so. So really, the second type of person is somebody that, you know, you can capture their information from. Now, the last type is somebody that's wanting your attention. Now, they can fall into two categories. The person that's going to be talking to you for a real long time, and an in-depth conversation that involves a more, you're not going to serve them very well by having that conversation on the booth. Okay. So the best thing to do with those people is say, hey, you know what? I think this warrants like a bit more of an in-depth conversation. Why don't we schedule a bit of time together? I know that the event's busy, and you know, I don't want you to miss out on anything, but I do want to continue the conversation. Let's set aside some time, and let's have that conversation. And it can either be like later in the day, it could be early morning before they get there, just so you've got that quality time with somebody that really warrants that in-depth conversation, once they're qualified, of course, to do that. You know, you shouldn't.
Now, would you sell that time, or would you just say, hey, just like book in a time for free, or how would you gauge that?
Yeah, I think it really depends on your mechanism for your sales process. If what you're selling warrants them to go through an audit of some description, that might also be something you can't actually achieve at the show either, because
that's what I was thinking.
Right?
Yeah.
So for me, I think it really depends on what you're selling and what your sales process is. I think that you're there, or somebody on your team is there, to be able to educate, to overcome objections and challenges, and reaffirm and get them to know, like, and trust you. You're not really using the booth as a way to ship stuff to them, you know? And I think that in a lot of ways, you might have people don't have a clear objective when they go to these things. Is it for me to generate leads, or is it for me to sell some products? There can be a middle ground where there's a bit of a hybrid of the two, but in the main, it's kind of like, no, we're here because everybody that comes to the booth, we're going to say, hey, we've got this special offer, but it's only on to the end of the event, and this is this product, and you can buy it. Do you want to talk about it? Great. And it's this much. Do you want to buy it? Yes or no? No, I don't. Okay, give me your details and I'll follow, you know, that type of stuff. That's like a kind of a hybrid. But I feel that when you're unified together, because it's likely not to just be you on the stand yourself around what it is that you want to have happen, around one common goal, then that's, certainly a consideration.
Interesting. So the idea that I've got for the booth at this stage is that we are building a tool at the moment whereby you just add in a few keywords into the tool, and then it gives you all the best ways of targeting your audience. Basically, just like it says, okay, here's what all the videos are that would come up for that type of search, and here's their view counts, and therefore is it a viable audience there? Here's your main competitors in the market space on YouTube, and so it kind of like it gives it that. And then I was thinking like it's a nice way of starting off a conversation. It's an easy thing for someone to just type it into the iPad, for example, press go, and they kind of come up with all the results. And then we can say, hey, look, do you want us to email that out to you? So you've got that information there for you. And that's kind of I thought would be a good way of saying, is your audience on YouTube? Can you get in front of them and then start that conversation off? And then also capture their details, because we can say, great, well, let's just kind of add this to your account right now, so you've got it when you log in or something. That's kind of one thing we're thinking. Obviously, for the people that wanted to have a chat with me, I'm going to need to work out how to solve that problem. But maybe we just do like hey, look, why don't you just pay for an hour's consultancy with me, and I can just go through whatever it is you've got in mind, and just like, and because you're here at the event, we'll do it for half price or something like that. Kind of incentivize them in some way, just to be like, okay, cool, we can continue that conversation. But typically that sort of conversation, I need so much more background information before I can actually give good advice. I could probably give like high level advice at the actual booth, but then if I see their ad and can review it quickly, it's like, oh, cool, this is what I'll do differently or whatever. But you're not going to be able to do that at the booth itself without spending like 40 minutes with somebody. So I was thinking like we could probably like have a chat and say, hey, look, you'll probably qualify at this stage for a one-to-one chat with me. Just like reserve that by going online here, using this code or something, and then buying there. And we can just then you can just book in your time with me whenever you like. That might be a good way of kind of like just siphoning off those people quickly without losing them as a prospect, perhaps. I
think what would be really cool would be, and I've seen this done, it works extremely well. The first question I would have is, how many people, what's the footfall on the stand? Because if they're required to engage in something, do you have enough iPads? Do you have enough stations? How big is the stand? And so if there's a lot of people and that's the main lead magnet, quote unquote, then is there enough of them in order to provide an experience to them that's positive? So that's the first thing that I would come to. The next thing I would come to is, can that lead magnet actually be an attraction for other people that might have been more the lurker variation? Now, the lurker profile. What I mean by that is this. I've seen this work really well, where you can go to an iPad and you can actually put headphones on. And you can watch a video or go through a walkthrough or tutorial and actually use that similar tool that you've seen that somebody's going through. They can put the headphones on. They can then see, they can be immersed in the experience of the tool, and then you can have multiple people doing that at the same time. They can watch a video of you giving a demonstration, doing a screen flow tutorial of what it is, and then telling them what to do step by step on the tool. And that can be really nice, because that can be an attraction then for people to come in and learn more about it.
I quite like that, because it's a safe place with the headphones on, especially. It's like you're not being sold to by a person. It's like you stick on the headphones and you can answer certain questions on the iPad to get some really bespoke content for yourself. That could be kind of a really nice way of like just bringing people in. Those lurkers, put them onto that. But likewise, if someone's asking too many questions, even in the queue, and you think, well, these aren't necessarily the best prospects in the world, just say, hey, look, what I really recommend right now is go and watch that. You'll absolutely love it. And gives you good direction there. Love that. It's really cool.
And I think probably the other thing is that it depended upon your staffing as well, because I've seen something work well where there's multiple television stands around, and people are actually like scheduling, almost like not scheduling, but they're actually coming in for like a demo of something. And then because you've got the staffing, you've got the ability to not need an automated iPad playing stuff back to them. You've actually got somebody kind of almost consulting with them on it, but using the demo as a guide, and then them being like, Actually, that's something I might sign up for. It depends on what it is that you're trying to sell, what the next step is that you're trying to take them to. Yeah, and the thing with the iPad thing that's interesting is that you probably don't need that many people there to actually achieve a good result with it.
Let the iPads be the people, right?
Yeah, exactly. And some people don't like to be too bothered. You can just have somebody there or a couple of people there that just say, hey, do you find that interesting? Did you enjoy the concept? Yeah, great, cool. That was great. And they were like, cool, well, do you want me to send you your results? Yeah, cool. How do we do that? Cool, give me your details. And that even the iPad can actually serve as the lead capture mechanism in order for them to actually get to the next stage. So they just simply fill in a web form. They then go to a video page. It tells them and walks them through what's going on, and then they actually submit their, go and get access to the tool. And that could be a really cool way of doing it. But I think the thing is, there's so many. Nobody should really ever be ruling out different ways that they could be lead generating, both offline from we were just talking about booths, we were talking about the stage, even from podcasts, or any other type of media that they're using. They should always be looking for mechanisms to capture as many leads as they possibly can.
It's really cool. Oli, great session as always. And I think that the key learnings here are kind of by making sure people focus in and get one funnel or one sales process or one traffic generation source kind of nailed in and zeroed in and perfect. And then very quickly soon after, as soon as a point of where you feel like you can't squeeze much more juice out of that lemon, diversify as quickly as possible and go after it either with a new product or a new audience or whatever it might be. And then finally as well, really think about not just online but offline and the experience you have for other people and what assets you have available to see how else you could bring in different sources of traffic and combine that with what you've already got. So that's been awesome. Been very, very useful. And I know that I'm going to take a lot of the content from this episode to San Diego when it comes to TNC and doing a presentation there with a booth there. So it should be very, very cool.
Love it. Tom, it's been awesome. Looking forward to seeing you again, that beautiful face and that green jumper in the next episode.
Yes. All right. See you in the next episode.